Michigan basketball has spent the last 2 years building towards this moment. 3 Wolverines entering the NBA draft, but just as the program is reaching new heights after a national championship, a shocking report suggests Dusty May is out. Go into the NBA. We're breaking it down right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Unhappy Monday. That's where we're at. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Well, I was about to do a show on Victor's Weekend, football recruiting and all of that. I was just about to start recording. I was about 2 minutes away. And then everything changed. Adam Schefter and Shams Charania report Dusty May is out. He is leaving for the NBA. So we're going to have an instant reaction up top, longer term in segment 2, and then we will touch on football recruiting as well. I'm just going to kind of looking at making sure that I'm not missing anything new here. So that's where we're at. Today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. All right, let's talk about the Dusty May of it all. 2 years in Ann Arbor, took an 8-24 team and made it a Sweet 16 team. National championship the following year. Heading to the Dallas Mavericks, according to Adam Schefter and Shams Charania. First off, I'm going to give a mea culpa because I was like everything I had heard in the last couple months, and I'd kind of just didn't even bother asking any questions or anything in the last, really kind of in the last month and a half. Because I just been given every indication that Dusty May was not going anywhere. I mean, I don't think that even if that anyone would really truly have any anyway at this point. But I was so confident he wasn't leaving Ann Arbor. And I don't think that anyone would have thought otherwise, given that he has been on something of a tour of Michigan, a media tour. He's been all around here, right? All of this, I wrote articles, he did an interview with Jeff Goodman of Field of 68 on Friday. I wrote articles off of that, talking about what's happening in the forthcoming, weeks, months, the plan for the season, all of that. And in some ways, this hurts more than John Beilein leaving, because Beilein at least had a really long run. It was surprising the timing when he left for the Cavaliers. I think that was in late May. Maybe that was early June. I'm trying to remember exactly when that was. Might have been mid-June. No, it had to have been earlier than that. I'm just remembering it was June when Juwan Howard was hired in 2019. But at least he had a little bit of had a bit of a track record, had a longer tenure, transformed the program in a sustaining way to the point where you could look at Juwan Howard now in retrospect and say, he was able to ring a little bit more than you would think, given how things ended. But definitely building on the foundation that John Beilein set. Whoever succeeds Dusty May absolutely, and we'll get more into that in the next segment, but, has a foundation set, but it's a 2-year tenure is somewhat fleeting to some degree. I mean, you can kind of almost even see that in football, even though Jim Harbaugh was around for a decade. Someone pointed out, and something I was tagged, Michigan coaches tending to leave after national championships, because Harbaugh pieced out as well. I want to wait. I know a lot of people are going to place the blame at Warde Manuel's feet. We need to wait to find out more about what Dallas is offering. According to Adam Schefter, he really wanted to coach Cooper Flagg. But this is terrible for Michigan, right? Because, like, are you going to be able to retain the roster that you just basically set up? Like, there are some players that you look at and say, like, well, I don't think Elliot Cadeau and Trey McKenney are going anywhere. But, like, why wouldn't they? Right? They have the ability to go anywhere if they want now. Are you able to retain Brandon McCoy? Are you able to retain the transfers you just brought in? Mustafa Cham. It is terrible timing. I understand for the Mavericks, great timing because you bring them in before the draft. But for Michigan, like, this doesn't upend anything that happened. But, like, I think that everyone thought, even last year, before you ever saw him come out and have a game, that the idea was this was your guy you were going to have for 10 years, 20 years, and to only have him for 2, despite how phenomenal things have been in the last 2 years for Michigan basketball, that really hurts a lot of what this is. Now, I don't think anyone's going to look back and say, like, oh, I didn't, like, it's wish he never would have come, obviously. And, like, no one's going to look back and have caveat emptor about this. But at the same time, like, what you thought you were getting, you got on the court, but you didn't think you were getting that legacy coach. And that's disheartening. That's really difficult to contend with. And it's made kind of the worse by the fact that he went around and has been, like, doing interviews with a bunch of different places and all of this. So now Michigan's going to have to reset at a really untimely period because you're going into July without a head coach. Now, I'm not going to get into, like, the options and things of that nature. I'm not well versed enough in college basketball, but even, like, Dusty was talking about, like, oh, it's going to be so great. We're going to be going up against Dan Hurley this fall. And, just everyone's been, like, right after the national championship, everyone's feeling this idea of, like, can we make it 2? I saw something on Twitter this morning about someone saying, like, oh, yeah, this like, the foundation that's set and everything with Dusty May, like, they could really challenge and contend for a second straight championship. And that was this morning. So it is absolutely wild. Again, mea culpa. Maybe it was arrogance on my part. He, to me, did not seem like the type of guy that was going to be like, I really need to go to the NBA. Felt more like a college coach because he's, like Beilein, he's a teacher. College coaches are more managers than teachers. They can be tacticians. Like Larry Brown was a tactician for sure, but not a teacher per se. So it's, I think with Dusty, he's more of a teacher than he is a tactician. He does have good scheme and everything, but, like, it's really shocking to me to think that he, especially to go to Dallas. Not that I know a ton about the NBA as it currently stands, but, like, Orlando to me would have made a bit more sense. But that's, again, I'm going off of limited information. You can correct me and say, no, Dallas is actually exactly where. Okay, I'm not going to argue that, but it just did not seem like exactly the place, the time. It's disheartening to see him leave Michigan high and dry at this stage. And welcome to college sports at this point, because, again, as much as you can look at and say, like, okay, Warde Manuel should have gotten this buttoned up. I took Dusty at his word that, like, yeah, this is going to get signed in June or July. It's just a matter of everything getting buttoned up. But in today's world of college sports or pro sports, you can never, ever, ever take a coach on his word. And that's a lesson that we continue to learn almost daily. At least with Jim Harbaugh, it was pretty obvious. This is not that. All right, let's continue on talking about the impact of all of this and the potential fallout. Let's get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, workplace chaos can show up fast. Deadlines are stacking up. Projects need attention on top of everything else. You're trying to fill an important role. The problem is that finding the right candidate can take a lot more time than most businesses can afford. So that's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. So you're spending less time sorting through applications and more time talking to qualified people who can help your business succeed. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. The organizations that consistently succeed know how important it is to identify the right talent and put them in a position to thrive. Just like the Michigan offense in 2023 thrived when they added all kinds of transfers, not ones that you necessarily looked at and said, yeah, that's a need. They ended up thriving because of that, won a national championship. The best organizations aren't trying to look at every possible option. They're focused on identifying the people who truly match what they're looking for. When you can spend more time evaluating great candidates and less time searching, everybody benefits. That's what Indeed Sponsored Jobs is designed to help businesses do. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Get your daily Michigan fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial. 7-day free trial. 7-day free trial right now. And get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com to claim your free trial. So Michigan is about to embark upon a coaching search once again. With that can come significant upheaval, of course. And the time of the year is not exactly great. I got a text from one of the pastors at my church, good friend, Pastor Josh Wiegand, over at the Freedom Center. And I kind of liked his idea. I got this right as I started recording. He said, interim coach John Beilein for a year. At this point, I think that's a great idea. Honestly, the timing makes that, I think, a great idea. I did not love the idea of interim coaches. Like when we were talking in December about interim coach Biff Poggi, like I thought that was nonsense, except for one day I was like, oh, maybe I'm down with that. And then I talked to some people and they were like, you're people who are much higher pay grade than I am. And also found out some inside intel and what have you. And it wasn't against Poggi, but it was just like, these people are telling me, are you insane? Like, and they spell it out for me. I'm like, oh, okay. Nope. Okay. I see what you're saying. I would be hard pressed, however, to disagree no matter what anyone would say to me and be like, oh, but the roster and all of this stuff. Like, yeah, you would need to get some really good at recruiting assistants. Beilein's been out of the game for a little while as far as that's concerned. He hasn't had to contend. He's contended with the transfer portal in a limited capacity. It was just kind of really started to be a thing. But I mean, he had gotten transfers, of course, right? Charles Matthews, being chief among them. But yeah, I think that Michigan's just in a really bad spot right now because this isn't like a machine that's been going and flowing. And now it also makes it kind of all the more like, remember, like the member berries here. Remember when Hubert Davis being out was a big deal? Now you've got the defending national champion without a coach and a really incredible roster, which could actually mean that you don't need to do the interim It's just then you get the domino effect of maybe you go and poach another guy and then they leave their school in that place. Because at least if nothing else, what Dusty May did show is that there's enough infrastructure at Michigan and an ability to win it all if you have the bona fides to be able to keep your head about you and make the right decisions, right? But Michigan loses more than just, a really good coach. I mean, the turnaround is about as impressive as you'll ever find anywhere. And the fact that he was so personable, like I'm thinking about when Yaxel talked about like his recruitment, like I know Kentucky people don't want to hear this, but like he took less money to come to Michigan because of his belief in Dusty May and the repercussions of him leaving. Because now you've got JP Estrella and you've got Mustafa Cham, two big men that certainly were looking at this opportunity at Michigan. I mean, even Jalen Reed to some degree, and say, I'm going to play at Michigan, not because I have a love for all things maize and blue, not just because in the case for like Mustafa Cham, who was at Cincinnati, that it's like, okay, now I'm taking a step up in terms of program and profile and all of that. Now you've got guys that are looking at it and saying, I want to go be with that guy. I want that coach to coach me because I've seen what he was able to do in his 2 years there. It's not as much. I mean, yes, some guys are going to come on the basketball side for the same reason you see a lot of people come on the football side or any sport. It's Michigan. But I think the selling point for these big men in particular, and even like someone like Brandon McCoy, who's from the West Coast, maybe a little bit less for Trey McKenney, who's from Flint, right? But like from these West Coast guys, I think you look at it and you say, less of like, it's Michigan. It's, everything that Michigan has to offer, the 40 years over 4 years and all of that. So that kind of changes the complexion, and to be able to get someone that's going to keep the band together, so to speak, I think is going to be not as easy as you would hope per se. And again, today's college basketball, the teams that lost out on Mustafa Cham, right? Like he was a highly sought after transfer portal guy. The teams that really wanted Brandon McCoy, right? Like one of the top 5 stars in the country, they're going to be looking at this 30 days and being like, all right, we can sweeten the pot. We can make this happen. As Wild West is the transfer portal has been in college football, college basketball is almost more depraved in the way that it operates. So now Warde needs, and he did an amazing job. This is something he doesn't get enough credit for, was being able to go out and get Dusty May to begin with. But now he's got maybe his hardest task overall, because it was obvious when Jim Harbaugh left that, like, we can hindsight Sherrone Moore being hired all we want, but like that was the decision. And some will say, like, there should have been a national search and everything. Like, Sherrone Moore is being groomed for that position by Jim Harbaugh, poorly, apparently. Like, it was obvious. Like, I did not even do, like, this is the guy Michigan should go out and get. Here's a list. Here's a hot board or anything like that. Didn't do any of that. This is a different deal. So, this is going to have to be the best job that Warde Manuel's ever done as an athletic director. Otherwise, Michigan's a hockey school. That's where we're at. Or football, Kyle Whittingham, new head coaches on both, in both, just like it was a couple of years ago. Who would have thought 2 years ago, Michigan football and Michigan basketball, new head coaches. 2 years later, Michigan football, Michigan basketball, 2 new head coaches. Much different scenarios, however. All right, let's talk a little recruiting. Let's end on an upside. Michigan did get a commitment yesterday. Michigan is trending for a huge, huge player that no one thought they were going to be trending for. We're going to talk about those two guys. We're going to do so here in just a moment. But before we do, running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. It's true in sports just as it is in business. Just like with the football side for Michigan, they brought in Kyle Whittingham, and now you see everybody kind of moving in the same direction. You can do the same when it comes to optimizing your organization. You can tell that hiring Whittingham was not a reactionary move given all of the turmoil. And if you have turmoil, guess what? You can do the same because the organization that Michigan had a vision, they stuck to it. Now you're starting to see the results. Same thing with Dusty May, because everyone was working from the same playbook. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockdown. That's odoo.com/lockdown. Almost hard to talk about good potential news here, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to end on a high note. So let's start with the surprise to me, which was that Michigan got rivals predictions from Alan True and Ethan McDowell on Monsanna Torbert. Long thought to be in Ohio State's lean at best. Visited Ohio State last week. Got two predictions coming out from like Steve Wiltfong being one of them. Already had a prediction from May that he was going to go to Ohio State. And then he gets two after his official visit. And it's like, yeah, Ohio kid. He's from Cincinnati, Princeton High School. But Kerry Combs, the Cincinnati kid, not a kid. Kerry Combs might just be that dude. And I mean, I remember him harassing the Detroit area. He put a fence around Cincinnati for Ohio State when he was there. And if you don't know Monsanna Torbert, he's the number 70 overall player according to Rivals, regardless of position. Cornerback, 4-star. The type of kid in Ohio you do not expect to leave Ohio, even if Cincinnati is slightly different, right? Cincinnati is kind of the... you see Cincinnati kids spurn Ohio State, of course, like Jordan Marshall. But it's rare. Usually Ohio State gets the kids in Ohio it wants. Not always. Not Jordan Marshall, not Charles Woodson, not Desmond Howard, not Kyle Kalis. But like generally they do. And now Michigan looks like it's in a really, really, really good spot. He is making his decision in just over a week, July 1st. Michigan had the last say. It clearly was a good say, so that's really good to hear. And I mean, this could they've already got two corners committed, Blake Jenkins and Darius Johnson. Joshua Dobson is kind of seeming like Michigan's in it. It's in the thick of it, but it kind of still feels like now Texas A&M maybe still. I mean, South Carolina's there too. But, the optimism that kind of was going into the visit and the immediate aftermath, a little bit less for him. So I think if there's someone that's going to make you feel very little pain about that, getting a guy from, that's rated that highly from the state of Ohio that Ohio State wanted, like that would definitely be Kyle Whittingham. Go ahead and take a big, long bow type of thing. Michigan did get a commit coming out of the weekend, and that is tight end Christian Hanshaw from Utah. Kyle Whittingham goes and gets a guy in his old stomping ground. Now, he is Michigan's lowest rated commitment in the class right now at number 969 overall, according to Rivals Industry Ranking. Watching the film, I'm kind of surprised by that, to be honest, that he's rated that low, because I saw a guy that has some really good bones to work with. Again, highlight reel. I'm always going to caveat this. Highlight reel, not low light reel, not a mixture of. So you're not seeing any potential bad plays. I didn't scout him in person. But here's what I took away from watching his film. He had really good route running, particularly against zone. which you see a lot, obviously, in high school football. And he was really solid at finding those open spaces in the zone. It just was like running free constantly. Had really good releases from the line of scrimmage, which I think was good to see. Really great speed, blowing past everybody, and enough speed where you saw him kind of being able to be used in some horizontal plays. There's one where he had kind of like a jet action out of the snap and was able to he ran for a touchdown, right? Like it wasn't a jet sweep. I think it was a toss play, but he was able to he was able to outrun everybody. Now, again, I don't know the competition he's facing in Utah, so that could place, a little bit of a piece. He has really good hands. There were some of these plays where he made some really difficult catches, made them look somewhat routine. So that was really good to see. He was a willing blocker. He finished a lot. You look at the strength of a high school player. There were some plays where he was doing really well holding his block, but it seemed a little bit overmatched against the end types he was going up against. But there were some others where he had some pancakes as well. Despite that limited production, I thought he looked much better as a pass catching threat, but he's certainly capable as a blocker. But he didn't have like an insane amount of, like, his stats weren't crazy coming out of his junior year. 27 receptions, 356 yards and 2 touchdowns. So not like a crazy stat line, but like at 6'5", 230, I could see him being a guy that could really grow and develop into like a really impressive role. So that's that. All right. We'll probably continue talking about this Dusty May news on Tuesday. Completely upends any plans we have. Perhaps changes the plan for the Wednesday guest. So there you go. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. Peace.